Why does it do that? Good night. Welcome or welcome back. So this is now week 7. You see, I can see 2 people there. I never know if it's the accurate number because every time I go off, after people say, "Oh, but X amount of people were watching," and I just blame YouTube for all of that. But welcome back, as I said. So tonight's episode, as you can see on the screen, is about stopping the wrong parts or hard parts of what you're doing. So stopping the struggle, and it was just saying to people, a lot of times your business feels much harder than it is typically because you either have a broken system or a missing system, a non-existent system, something like that. And that is what we're going to get you fixing from tonight, so you can have some good practical takeaways regardless of your situation. I really like to teach on principles and patterns. That's how I learn best. And principles, especially because they don't just magically change. A principle that stands true today is the same tomorrow, and it works because it's a principle. So any of this practical advice can be applied to pretty much any business scenario you have. Even if it's not business, the same principles tend to work. But anyway, to tell you something up front, if your business feels hard, chaotic, overwhelming, stressful, super frustrating, any of those negative things, it's often because you um you're I don't want to ruffle any feathers, but you're often making it harder than it needs to be. And I myself am guilty of this, even though I know better. It's human nature. It's easy to fall into the same patterns. So the trick is to trick yourself into breaking those patterns, because business doesn't have to be hard. It really doesn't. It can be much simpler. And as I said, it's typically because your systems are broken or non existent. So, a quick intro. I'm Terry, and I help you get set up online so that you can get proper systems in place, automations, especially if you're flying solo or have a small business, so that you don't have to fall into these pitfalls. I handle the techie stuff so you don't have to, and you can just actually start to enjoy running your business, because business should and could be enjoyable, believe it or not. I love what I do, and that's because I chose a good niche that I know I could go on and on about every day if I had to. Like, I don't get tired talking about this stuff. I really go into nerd mode, and business feels enjoyable to me because I built a good system around something that I love to do, but that also people need and are willing to pay for. Your business could be that simplified as well. So, as I said, I'm going to give you simple practical tools and tips you can take away. And I always tell people these free sessions are about you learning something and me getting more insights from you as well. Because people message after telling me what they learned or what else they want to learn. So we can keep the cycle going. And just the usual quick disclaimer, this is not legal or financial advice. So don't go running with the little snippets and not the full picture and applying something and saying that I told you to do it. Just I'd rather you check in with me first. Yes, you could literally ask me questions for free inside the Wealth Circle, which is the free community I have. So the link is always in the description below the video. You can always join there. Okay, so the real problem people tend to have is the manual chaos. So you're checking and trying to juggle a bunch of different platforms and tools. So you're on Instagram, you're struggling to keep up with messages there. And I often chuckle when I see all of those business pages that want customers having to put up no DMs and the red circle with the bar through it, saying, like, the stop sign emoji. And I get it. Trust me, I can understand how it gets to a point where you say no DMs, because most times it's a service based business. You're trying to split your time to do the actual service, whether that be a spa business, a plumbing business, electrical work, any kind of job out there. And it is then hard to have to go and juggle a bunch of messages on WhatsApp, not WhatsApp, well, WhatsApp too, but in the Instagram DMs where people are messaging you all kinds of hours. And they sometimes, to be fair, are asking simple questions. Sometimes the information is on your page. I could see how that would build frustration. But all in all, if you had a simple system in place for managing said incoming questions and DMs, I would bet, I would wager that that wouldn't even be an issue. So oftentimes we put something in place, a little plaster for the frustration at the end, instead of root causing it properly and putting a solution in place for that. So the real root cause there to having to juggle a bunch of random questions or repeat questions, the same questions from people or different people on Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever you are, is because you don't have a system to address that. So oftentimes it can look as simple as an automated message just saying, hey, thanks for reaching out. We're not, active 24/7 on Instagram or whatever the platform is, but here's how you can reach us. And you funnel them to where you want them to go. That's an easy, simple first step. A better step, especially modern day, and I know AI can be controversial, but I'm all about using the tools that make life easier and can be cost effective. So now, yes, you can very easily link AIs to just handle, especially repeat questions. You can handle them to, incorporate them to handle bookings. So you are literally not even involved up to the point that somebody has booked you. You can even set payments up front if you want to. You can set deposits up front. So there's so many things that people aren't aware of that are out there made to make your life and business way easier. And I'm not just talking from theory, I don't like to do that. I'm talking from experience. These are things I implement and use. Now, in some cases, personally, I don't have automations linked to everything because I still like that genuine person to person connection, but I still incorporate them on the parts where I don't want to have to say answer the same questions over and over, or I want to make sure a person's more serious and not a time waster. Because as humans, we all, let's be real, we ask question, you can get the systems in place for that. Because when you try to do it all manually, what happens when you're juggling the same Instagram DMs, WhatsApp messages, emails, and everything is that you end up forgetting to message somebody back. Then you've created friction and frustration with a potential customer or existing customer, and also something that could have been avoided. Um, so at that point, you don't have a business system. You tend to have let's call it a struggle system or a survival system where you're constantly outing fires, playing catch up, and just trying to stay, like, keep your head above water instead of, honestly, like I said, having a more peaceful, streamlined, enjoyable, even business. So the frustration then ends up being, yes, the missed leads, meaning missing out on potential customers. You also have the delayed responses, like I said, and then no form of even tracking these conversations. So, in terms of what a real system looks like or could look like, and this is where I shine and you could shine too, is you at the core, especially if doing things solo or if you have a small business, and but again, especially if you're doing things by yourself, and I'm speaking from experience, I do things solo. There are people, side note, that I can contract on if it's something I absolutely don't have time for or don't want to handle at a particular point in time. So, for example, if I got a bunch of requests coming in today for like 10 websites, I can't do all those like at once. But there are a couple of trusted people that I have that I could say, hey, could you handle this part? But I don't even do those things without the customer's knowledge. I'm transparent about everything. But anyway, I digress. The point is, I'm often doing things solo more often than not. This is like 99.9% of the time. So I'm not just talking again from theory. I get the stressful situations, the frustrations, and all of that. And this is where, again, a good system comes into play. And this is why I set up for people, as I set it for myself over and over again. So what you want for a good system, especially an online system or offline, by the way, these are reproducible offline, even if you have a simple notepad to do the same steps I'm about to tell you. But online does make it easier, where what you need is, number one, a CRM. So a CRM is a customer relationship management tool or platform, and what you need that for is to manage your customer relations. So if a bunch of inquiries are coming in, and you can call them leads, or potential customers, you need this where you have all of your contacts in one place that you can easily check and track what's happening, what conversations or questions they're having or sending you, and you can easily replace them from all one place instead of having to try to track them on Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever else, email. And yes, I have solutions for that. We don't have to get into them now, But I'm just letting you know there are things that exist out there for all of these problems. Um, where instead of having to try to juggle all those different platforms, you can log into one tool, one platform, and manage everything from there. If anyone can still hear me, I'm seeing a message on the YouTube and saying error more than one ingestion is using the primary URL. Send the stream to. I don't know what that means. Man, every week it's something. I'll just keep talking because I think people should be fine. Anyway, the next thing you need is something for scheduling. So more often than not, when you have a service-based business, you are okay. But people are showing up for me. Okay, well, people are saying nothing is wrong. Man, I think at this point, YouTube is trying to sabotage me or somebody out there. Sorry for whatever I did to whoever. Anyway, so the next thing, as I was saying, that you need, apart from that CRM side of things to manage your contacts and conversations all in one place, is something for scheduling. So that can look like a calendar booking link or something similar, but that is one of the points you really want to be automated. So there's a difference in how people used to do scheduling, and a lot of people still do scheduling the painful way, which is that somebody messages you and says, hey, I'm available Monday at 10. Are you available Monday at 10? And you go, oh no, let me check my calendar. Monday at 10 is taken. Are you available Monday at 12? Oh no, I have a meeting that time. And it goes on and on and on. As opposed to, picture this, you have a booking calendar where you already have your time availability set up, and you can easily block off times additionally if you need to. You can put in things like bank holidays, weekends. You can set your own hours on it and availability so that when you send that one link to somebody to book a call or a session or whatever service it is, they can already see the availability because that is all that will show as available. So things that aren't available are blocked off and they can't click them. And that is a lot simpler where the person can look through for something that suits them and works for them without having to do that back and forth with you. And because oftentimes that is the draining part. So the way I have mine set up, because I have pretty narrow windows for certain types of calls, I have mine set as Tuesday to Friday availability, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., and in 15-minute slots, for example. But that's because of how I prefer that particular calendar to go. I do have a couple other calendars for different functions, but that primary one for the free 15-minute calls, I don't quite frankly want to spend all of my days and times doing those. I can't. Otherwise, how do I serve my customers and clients in other ways, doing the actual techie work? So I do have limits on those, but I do also tell people who have already signed on for a service, because I want them to have, still high connectivity and value, that, hey, if you don't see a time on the calendar that works for you, just still message me on WhatsApp or something, and it is you have going on. Where set your availability, as I mentioned, and people only can book based on your availability. You can also set it so that it can full payment up front based on what it is you're offering. It could collect partial payment. You can also set it to collect offline payments if you don't have an online payment processor, which most small businesses or solopreneurs in the Caribbean don't have because our governments don't make it easy. But I also solve those problems on a side note where, yes, I collect online payments. And man, I try not to go off on tangents, but I have to go off on a slight one here. I had to go the long, hard way of years and years of figuring out a lot of this stuff myself. So, as I said before, when I'm telling you the solution so easily, it's not because it has always been easy. It's because I went through the struggle firsthand and I know what it's like to have all these dreams and goals and ideas and feel limited, stuck, and frustrated by just the geographical location where you happen to be born. And I don't want to be anything else but Bajan, by the way. Love being Bajan, always been quietly patriotic. But let me stop digressing. The point is, we do have realistic limitations, unfortunately, on us here, simply because we're in Barbados. So that means when people overseas can easily sign up to on one of the top platforms, Stripe, to connect collect online payments, we can't just go and do that. It does take workarounds, and they're illegal ones. So I don't put myself or anybody else to do anything that's illegal, but that's how I was able to collect online payments by there are options like say uh, that you can do 100% remotely from your country, where you can set up a foreign owned US LLC. Again, for a fraction of the cost that you can do a local business in Barbados. But that's not what this episode is about, man. Just message me if you have any questions on that. Let me not say chat. So, a good system also would include something where you can easily track invoicing and keep track of your payments, and also that makes things way easier downstream if and when you likely will have to bring some sort of accountant on board or do it yourself, where everything is tracked neatly in one place and you don't have to try to remember everything manually. You also want a good system with media storage that allows you to upload any documents that you need to upload, where you can track everything again in one place. In terms of automations, I am big on those. Automations don't have to have anything to do with AI. So even if you're skeptical about AI, we haven't even touched there yet. These are all things that can be done AI free. Automations, though, I am big on them because it's the difference again in, let's use the booking calendar example. If somebody, let's say you do have a booking calendar and somebody books you, but then you have to go and manually confirm or send them back an email with the booking link that they will use or anything like that. Again, you're taking backward steps and giving yourself more work. What could that look like? Easily automated, where the person books, they get a confirmation email that already contains the booking link, sorry, the calendar link for the call or whatever it is, and any other information you need to go in there based on the email you drafted with the automation. And that is it. You can also set it so that you get a notification. So instead of having to go and do extra work of checking a calendar every single day and wondering, okay, did anyone book me today? You already have a notification that tells you when that person books real time. You can also set reminders for you and them that can go out. I'll just use myself as an example again. I have mine set to go out an hour before the call, and also like I think 10 or 5 minutes before the call, because people forget realistically. I tend not to, but yeah, I do sometimes too. But the point is, don't burden or tax your mind with things that you can set and forget. So I don't have to worry about or panic about missing calls or being late for them if I'm doing anything else, because I get those notifications to my any of my devices, where I then can go and just be like, oh, okay. And I can also log in from any of my devices if I choose. But you know, and then there's nice touches like, birthday shout outs and anything to customers. All of that ties into having a good CRM. As I said, that's customer relationship management tool, where you don't have to remember all of this information, but it's a nice touch that customers tend to like when you give them a little shout out for their birthday. So if you collect all that information all in one system, it makes it way easy. And if you're doing everything manually, I hate to have to break it to you, but you are the bottleneck in your business. And that's not where you want to be. You want to be the creative person or the person actually running it and enjoying it. So, in terms of the next example I wanted to touch on is just in terms of websites and domain. And I asked the client's permission today to use this as the example, because we had something scheduled that could have taken mere minutes, but instead he went ahead doing the Bayesian thing of going rogue and went ahead and purchased the domain from a registrar. But then I had asked him to just look for the domain name he wanted and make sure it's available, because he hadn't decided yet. And I told him, after you find the one you want and it's available, you just let me know so I can guide you from there on which registrar to use and how to go about it. Because that's the huge difference in then having to do a bunch of double, triple, quadruple work later versus just a seamless couple minutes setup and linking it to this particular software we were dealing with. And I shared that example because sometimes we're our own worst enemies, where you might go to somebody as the expert, but then sometimes, yes, human nature might kick in and you think you're being helpful, but sometimes it makes your job and theirs harder. Now it's something that I know I can start out. So we do have a call scheduled for tomorrow because after the back and forth, I was like, look, let's just start this on a call where I can walk you through what exactly to do. But the point is, sometimes you don't have to make your own job easier, because that time could have been better spent by him, working on the actual business instead of then troubleshooting and stuff like that. um, so also on a side note, where you buy the domain name from matters. So again, it's not, when I tell clients stuff, it's not because I'm trying to control you or anything. You can make your own decisions. However, oftentimes if you go to somebody as the expert, is because, well, they already know that arena. And I pretty much live in this online tech world. I know all the ins and outs of the different platforms and what is already available. So let's say, for example, I try not to name names, but I mean it's factual. Typically, if you go to buy your domain name from someplace like Namecheap, it's going to be way cheaper than someplace like, say, GoDaddy or Bluehost. Does it mean that I've never used those other ones? No. However, it's for different reasons, for sure. So if I use Bluehost, it's typically for a client that says they plan to have multiple websites over time. And Bluehost, for example, allows, like, I think up to 10 websites on the basic plan, which is not that much per year that you're going to pay. But their domains do tend to be more expensive. We're talking 15 to 20 something and more USD per year. And then you have to pay separately another like 15 to 20 something USD per year for the domain name privacy. So I mentioned in a previous episode that what that privacy is when you buy a domain name, certain information has to be disclosed to the place you buy it from. That would be your name, home address, phone number, email address, all of that. And that would be exposed for anybody to find online, which is not what you want, privacy wise or protection wise, safety. But when you have the domain name privacy activated, that shields your information publicly and shows the registrar's information instead. So you would see Bluehost and their information and address or whatever instead of yours. No, in comparison, Namecheap, if you don't plan to have a bunch of websites, is what I would typically recommend if you're just buying a domain name and need it to link to software for different reasons or whatever. Because Namecheap, in comparison, is going to have domain names for, like, say, $10 to $15, and they give you pretty much free lifetime domain name privacy. So that is paying $10 versus, say, 30 something US per year. The costs add up. So I don't have a reason to put anybody wrong. Trust and believe. Like, why would I? So it is a huge difference in terms of costs and how you do set up your business. So again, don't make your business harder by not following simple steps. Um, and the next part, in terms of visibility and credibility, and this ties right back into the topic of, um, you know, not having good systems. You want good online presence. I've said this before, and everything has a strategic role. So a website, back in the day, websites, people would love if they had a flashy website with all the bells and whistles. I guarantee you those things are not necessary modern day. A good example that I can think of is, and this is because I like Krish. I raise my hand. Yellow Meat. So they sell roasted breadfruit bowls, and their website is very simple, straightforward, easy to follow. That is what you want when a customer comes looking, especially based on the types of services you provide. Now, let's say if you are, I don't know, graphic designer or something, that may be a little different, where you can showcase, some of your creativity. Or if you are a user interface designer for websites and you do those types of websites, like, I don't know, for gamers or something, that is something different. When somebody looking at a gamer website is going to expect bells and whistles and all the pops and color and all that. Apart from that, most people searching for something just want clarity, and they want to know, okay, how do I book? How do I pay? How do I purchase the service? What am I getting with it? They want straightforward, clear information. So, Yellow Meat, as I was saying, is a good example. Their website is just straightforward. They have a big order here button. Um, I won't say that part. There's a little thing on their website I saw that should be fixed, but I'll maybe message them privately, or if one of you knows them, tell them reach out, please. I would tell them for free. It is bugging me OCD wise. But anyway, they have a very good layout along with a very good product that people can then easily order and purchase. And from there, they don't even have an online payment system. So this is why I'm saying you don't you don't let these things stop you from starting or progressing, but they make the process easier or more frictionless downstream. So if they had an online payment system, that would be even better. But it shows you another business where it's just not necessary to start, not to get started. I would say, go and watch some of the earlier episodes. I have them all in one playlist for this live income lab Q&A that I run weekly. Because I'm more sure I'm 100% certain I touched on some of those other aspects before. But anyway, what a website does modern day is adds credibility, because most people that are searching or hear your name or something, the first thing they're going to go and do is Google. We all do it. The first time you hear about something, you're going to go and Google it. That's what people do modern day when it comes to you and your business. So you want that website to add credibility, but don't let a lack of one stop you from getting started, just so we're clear. There's tons you can do even without a website. As I mentioned before, even setting up those free social media profiles. Can I do all of this for you? Yes. Do I prefer to do certain parts? Not really, but this is why I'm sharing the information so you can do it. But if you absolutely need my help, of course, I'm there. Message me. You can book something or just get the free advice. It's all the same to me. But that website has credibility. So do the social profiles, but they work a little differently typically. But human nature, when they see the website, they think, oh, this person's really serious, as opposed to if it's just the social media alone. But something is better than nothing, just so we're clear. And I just want people to get started. You also have things that people don't generally think about or talk about, like online listings. So there are online listing websites. You would know about the yellow pages, whether you were ancient and from back in the day like me, the physical yellow pages books that had in all the phone numbers and contact information for people and businesses, or the yellow pages also has an online directory. Similarly, there are tons of other directories, and some of them you would be surprised they go and pull in your information for free, unauthorized. So once your information is out there, it's out there. Trust me. But the point is, you can go and list on some of those sites to just give yourself an online SEO boost. And I said in another episode that is search engine optimization. Think of it in simple ways. The more information about you and your business you have out there, the more credible you appear to these algorithms and web crawlers and all of that, and by extension to people searching, because then they can push your results in front of them. And in terms of those same aspects that I mentioned, the website and the social media, showing up builds trust. When people see you more often, that's just again human nature. If none of us ever saw, I don't know why I'm using this as the example, but let's say we had a prime minister that we never saw at all, you would probably be a little skeptical or less trustful, as opposed to, you can see Mia Motley online. Well, the Honorable Mia Motley. I don't know what's the correct title. Somebody forgive me, but I love Mia. Okay. Um, in terms of marketing, we're going to get into that and go in depth next week on marketing and by extension sales, because a lot of people ask about marketing, like how do I get my stuff out there? And I said in another episode, stop blindly throwing your money down the drain on those boosted posts on Instagram or anywhere else before you implement some of the right systems and strategies. And then from there, you can look at ads. But I don't recommend just starting with ads if you don't know what you're doing or don't have the right actual social media post setup. So I'll go all in on marketing next week and how it ties into sales. But the quick points for this week is just that visibility alone is not marketing. So yes, you can set up these profiles and be online, but that doesn't equate to good marketing. In a nutshell, I would say good marketing is about, positioning and messaging. So meaning how you show up in front of your target audience and what you're saying to them. So I told you at the beginning of this what I do. That is good, as opposed to me just coming and saying either nothing or talking about how I like I don't know, water. That would mean nothing to you, and that was also not a good example. But anyway, in closing, I do hope you learned something, because I went off on some tangents. But to bring it home, if your business feels overwhelming, don't just keep adding more effort blindly. You have to fix the system. And I throw in strategy, but it's the systems. So the final line I will wrap up with tonight is the goal is not to work harder, but to build a system that does the work for you, that heavy lifting for you, especially parts you don't want to do. You can have systems that do all of that. As I said, you can join the Wealth Circle. The link is in the description as always. That is my free community hosted on a platform called School. And you can share this live with anyone who you know might benefit. Feel free to DM me, message any questions that you want addressed, especially for next week's episode on marketing. So thank you for joining.